The group chat notification pierced the quiet of the dorm room, its sudden chime making Sam flinch. He picked up his phone, expecting a mundane complaint about the Wi-Fi. Instead, the message from the dorm warden, Mr. Harris, made his blood run cold. Emergency! Unidentified trespassers have breached the campus walls and entered the dorm building. All students, lock your doors immediately. Under no circumstances are you to leave your rooms. Sam stared at the glowing screen, a deep frown creasing his forehead. Trespassers? Before he could even process the warning, a heavy, frantic pounding shook his door. "Sam! Open the door! Something's wrong out here!" A voice screamed from the hallway. "There's something chasing me!" The blood instantly drained from Sam's face. The voice belonged to Max, his roommate. It had that distinct, rough timbre with a slight crack in the upper register, a voice Sam could never mistake. But a wave of freezing panic washed over him, because Max wasn't supposed to be on campus. Max had left that afternoon for an all-night session at an internet café downtown. Just 30 minutes ago, he had posted a photo of his instant noodles, tagging his location miles away. So what in God's name was standing outside the door, frantically pounding on the wood? Just then, Mr. Harris sent a chilling follow-up message to the group chat. "Attention all students. The intruders are extremely dangerous and highly skilled at disguise. You must carefully verify anyone outside your door. Do not let anyone who does not belong in your room inside." Sam swallowed hard, the dry click loud in the suffocating silence of his room. The thing outside couldn't be Max. Could it be a prank from the guys next door? Unlikely. Sam lived in room 612, tucked away at the very dead end of the corridor. Nobody ever came down this way, let alone to play a twisted joke in the middle of the night. Trembling, he crept barefoot toward the door, moving as silently as a ghost. He pressed his eye against the peephole. Out in the hallway, the motion sensor light was flickering violently, casting jagged shadows across the linoleum. But through the distortion of the glass lens, Sam saw it clearly. It was Max's face. Did the internet cafe lose power? Did he catch a cab back early? Sam thought, desperate for a logical explanation. Fumbling with his shaking hands, Sam unlocked his phone and initiated a video call with Max. The call connected almost instantly. On the screen, the real Max was sitting in a brightly lit internet cafe, a massive gaming headset clamped over his ears. The chaotic, rapid-fire clicking of a mechanical keyboard and the muffled shouts of other gamers flooded the audio. "Sam, are you out of your mind?" Max yelled over the noise, his eyes glued to his monitor. "Calling me in the middle of a raid? I'm busy. I'll bring you breakfast tomorrow." Hanging up, the screen went dark. A spike of primal terror shot straight through Sam, tearing from the soles of his feet to the crown of his head. The entity standing outside his door didn't just share Max's face. It had replicated his voice and frantic breathing with flawless, terrifying precision. It was a monster. The warden's warning was real. There was something unnatural inside the building. The pounding resumed, harder this time. The doorknob rattled violently. "Sam! I know you're in there. Open up. The lights down the hall are going out. Something is coming." Sam didn't dare make a sound. He pressed his eye back to the peephole, his heart hammering against his ribs like a trapped bird. What he saw next nearly made his legs give out. Directly across the hall, at room 611, a figure stood in the flickering gloom. It was a pitch-black silhouette, pressed completely flat against the wooden door like a grotesque shadow, entirely motionless. Mustering every ounce of courage he had left, Sam shifted his angle to peer deeper down the corridor. His breath caught in his throat. In front of every single door on the 6th floor stood an identical black shadow. They were perfectly silent, rigidly glued to the wood, patiently waiting for the terrified students inside to open up. Suddenly, his phone vibrated wildly in his hand. Another message from Mr. Harris. "Please secure your doors and windows. Do not trust any." The message abruptly cut off, as if the sender had been interrupted mid-sentence. Sam's breathing grew shallow. He felt entirely trapped. The previously dead-silent dorm group chat suddenly erupted into absolute chaos. "What the hell? Is someone knocking on your doors too?" The voice outside sounds exactly like my bottom bunk roommate, but he's literally asleep in the top bunk right now. "Don't open the door. Do not open it. There's a woman crying outside mine. But this is a boys' dorm. I can't reach 911. It says no service." Staring at the waterfall of panicked text, Sam realized the horrifying truth. This wasn't an isolated incident. It was a massive, indiscriminate hunting ground. Just as the collective despair reached a breaking point, a new message from Mr. Harris popped up. "Everyone, do not panic. Security has contacted the police. I just received orders from above. The anomaly is contained to our building. In a few moments, I will be coming around with the security team, floor by floor, to escort everyone to the underground gym for safety. When you hear me tap your door 3 times with my keys, come out immediately." The chat visibly relaxed. It was as if the entire building had collectively grabbed onto a lifeline. Within minutes, the group was flooded with rapid updates. "I'm with the warden on the first floor. We're safe, made it to the underground gym. Thank God, room 302 safely evacuated. Thank you, Mr. Harris." Sam stared at the perfectly uniform wave of safe messages, but a sickening sense of wrongness began to fester in his gut. This was a decaying, old-style building with a narrow central staircase. If a security team was really conducting a massive evacuation, marching hundreds of terrified teenagers down the steps, the stairwell would be echoing with chaotic footsteps, shouting, and the heavy thud of boots. But outside Sam's door, it was a tomb. It was so deathly quiet he could have heard a pin drop. More terrifyingly, how could a small security team climb from the first floor, safely round up hundreds of students across 5 levels, and escort them all down in less than 3 minutes? It was physically impossible. Before Sam could type a warning, a new message flashed on the screen. It was from Tyler, the sports rep in the adjacent room 610. "The warden is knocking. I'm opening the door to join the group." Sam's eyes widened. "No," he whispered. From the hallway came the distinct click and creak of room 610's door opening. A split second later, a blood-curdling, inhuman shriek ripped through the silence. Sam's entire body violently jolted. Driven by pure adrenaline, he slammed his eye against the peephole. Through the warped glass, he saw it, a human body, twisted and folded backward at an impossible, sickening angle, was being dragged down the dim corridor by something unbelievably tall and thin. The impossibly tall, slender shadow dragged Tyler's broken body into the pitch-black depths of the hallway. Mr. Harris had been replaced. The entity masquerading as the dorm warden wasn't here to save anyone. It was here to slaughter them. With violently trembling hands, Sam typed what he had just witnessed into the dorm group chat. "Don't open your doors. The warden is fake. Tyler in 610 just opened his door and was killed." He hit send, his chest heaving with silent, terrified pants. But the chat remained dead silent. No one replied. No one reacted. A second later, a notification popped up. A new, unnamed member had joined the group chat. "Since one clever student has already guessed the truth, we'll skip the evacuation charade. Let's proceed directly to the room inspections." Sam's blood ran cold as the new member sent a follow-up message. "At exactly 2 a.m., I will arrive on the 6th floor. I will carefully inspect every single room. If I find anything inside that does not belong in your room, I will personally clean out the entire dorm. A clean room is the only way to survive the night, so your task now is to pay close attention to the knocking at your door. If it truly is your roommate and you refuse to let him in, he will be torn to shreds by the things waiting in the hallway. But a word of warning, do not let sympathy blind you. Open the wrong door and you share his fate." Reading this, the last bit of color drained from Sam's face. This wasn't an evacuation. It was a sickening, twisted psychological game. Refusing to be trapped like a rat, Sam bolted toward the balcony, desperately hoping for a way to climb down or escape. But as he looked out the window, his heart sank into an abyss of despair. The outside world was gone. The campus was entirely swallowed by an impossibly thick, churning black fog. Within the dark mist, shifting silhouettes and grotesque shadows writhed endlessly. There was no way out. He crept back into the center of his room, his mind racing. "The inspection is at 2 a.m. If I don't open the door and let my roommate in, the monster warden will kill me for having an incomplete room. But if I open the door and let in a disguised fake, I'll be torn apart anyway." Just as the paralyzing weight of his dilemma set in, the frantic knocking resumed. "Sam, open the door, hurry." Max's voice screamed through the wood. "The warden on the first floor is covered in blood. He's eating people down there. I barely made it up here." Immediately, Sam's phone vibrated. An incoming video call. The caller ID flashed Max. Shivering uncontrollably, Sam accepted the call. On the screen, Max's face was twisted in absolute panic. Behind him, the background was unmistakably the dim, flickering 6th-floor hallway right outside Sam's door. "Sam, why won't you open the door?" Max pleaded, tears and snot streaming down his face. "I never went to the internet cafe. I just told you that because I wanted to sneak back and scare you. Please, open up. That monster warden is already coming up the stairs. I can hear him chopping bone." The logic was entirely seamless. A cold sweat broke out over Sam's entire body. These monsters are too cunning, he realized with mounting horror. They are actively reading my memories, fixing their own loopholes, and manipulating my logic to make me doubt everything I saw. Sam abruptly hung up the video call. He glanced at the time, 1:58 a.m. The countdown was in its final 2 minutes. Sam pressed his eye against the peephole, staring at the all-too-familiar face of his best friend on the other side. His brain spun furiously. Under extreme panic, hearing such a reasonable, desperate explanation, almost anyone's mind would break. They would throw open the door. But what if this entity was using reverse psychology? What if it intentionally showed a massive flaw, the internet cafe background, only to present a flawless, tearful lie the moment it was caught, smiling inwardly as its prey willingly unlocked the door? Sam took a deep, shuddering breath and leaned close to the door panel. "Okay," Sam said, trying to keep his voice steady. "I'll open the door right now. But just to prove you're really Max, I need to ask you one last thing." "Hurry up and ask," Max shrieked from the hallway. "He's already at the 5th floor." "That red switch mechanical keyboard I lent you last week," Sam said quickly. "Do you have it on you? I saved up for 2 months to buy that. Don't tell me you lost it." The entity on the other side of the door clearly froze for a fraction of a second. "I have it. I have it," Max's voice replied, dripping with urgent desperation. "It's right here in my backpack. Just open the door and I'll hand it to you." The tone was perfect. It sounded exactly like the careless, hurried roommate Sam had lived with for years. But upon hearing that answer, Sam slowly, deliberately pulled his hand away from the deadbolt. "You guessed wrong," Sam whispered, his voice trembling but resolute. "I never bought a red switch mechanical keyboard." Outside the door, the terrified, tear-streaked expression on Max's face instantly evaporated. The human facade melted away, replaced by a twisted, venomous sneer of pure malice. "So," the thing hissed in a voice that sounded like grinding stones, "I've been found out." Suddenly, a horrific, ear-piercing screech erupted from the hallway. It sounded like thick, jagged fingernails furiously gouging into the metal doorframe. The entity was frantically venting its violent rage, tearing at the wood and steel just inches from Sam's face. Then, the digital clock on Sam's desk chimed. 2 a.m. The frantic scratching outside abruptly ceased, replaced by a suffocating silence. From the far end of the corridor, heavy, dragging footsteps began to echo. They were accompanied by a sharp, piercing, mocking laugh that made Sam's teeth ache. "Inspection time," a grating, inhuman voice called out. "Those who do not obey my instructions will be punished." The dragging footsteps grew louder, finally stopping right in front of room 612. Sam clamped both hands tightly over his mouth, holding his breath until his lungs burned, terrified that even the violent hammering of his heart would give him away. He watched through the peephole as a towering, distorted shadow lingered outside his door. It seemed to peer inside for a long, agonizing moment. Then, satisfied with the silence, it slowly turned and resumed its heavy, dragging march toward the next room. Seconds later, the deathly quiet of the hallway was shattered. From deep within the corridor came the explosive, splintering sounds of heavy doors being violently kicked off their hinges. Then came the screams. Raw, agonizing shrieks of absolute despair from his dormmates echoed through the walls. Standing in the dark, tears brimming in his eyes, Sam let out a long, heavy exhale. He had survived.